Hi everyone, welcome to another video where today we are going to be extending our previous video where we were creating pattern rules. We'll actually throw a card in the top right hand corner. If you haven't watched the pattern rule video, you might want to go back and look at this. Today we're going to be talking about one-step algebra. So there's quite a few things that we can talk about with regards to this, so buckle in. Feel free to pause the video wherever you feel like you need to so you can go back and watch things that aren't quite making sense. And let's get started. So first things you might notice is that in algebra, what we have here are some placeholders. We call these variables. Variables are something that can change. They are an unknown number. And believe it or not, you've probably been doing algebra, or at least maybe not algebra with letters, but you might see something that looks like this. 8 plus blank is 17, and you have to try and figure that out. Well, the concept of algebra really is no different than what you've done previously. I'll put that n back in there. Essentially what we're going to be doing is we are going to be trying to do something called isolating a variable. And isolating a variable means that we're trying to get it by itself. We want to have the variable on one side of equals, and then we want to have the numerical answer on the other side of equals. And the only way that we can do that is to think of algebra like a scale, and to keep things in balance. So I'm going to show you what I mean here. Let's assume that this is a teeter-totter or a lever. And what we have here is something that is already in balance. We have something that is 8 plus n is the same as, equals means is the same as 17. If we were, think about this for a second, to remove something from this side, but not this side, all of a sudden the scale, this side will get lighter, this side will get heavier, and the scale becomes out of balance. So as we're doing algebra, what we want to do is remember a simple concept. We want to do something to this side, but do the exact same thing to the other side to keep it in balance. And in doing so, it allows us to do a concept called zero principle. And when we did a video on algebra, again, another card in the top right corner, we've talked about zero principle as the cancellation of integers. And that's kind of what we're doing here today. We are trying to cancel out some numbers so we can get the variable by itself. So let's see how this works. Let's pretend that, this is going to be kind of an analogy here. Let's pretend that n is the cute boy or the pretty girl at the dance that you want to go and talk to, but you can't get through to talk to her because she has 8 friends or he has 8 friends with him. So what you need to do is you need to get rid of those 8 friends. So you go collect 8 friends of your own, and you're going to cancel out those 8. You're going to pair them off, like you would in an integer. Now, the only way we can do that is, one, we have to know what this operation is so we can do its opposite. Okay, so think about this. This is an 8, which means it's positive. And if we're doing the opposite operation to cancel out positive 8, we need to subtract 8. So what we have here is we have positive 8 minus 8 plus n. I did nothing with the plus n, so I'm going to bring it down. And that is the same as 17. And you'll remember what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So where I subtracted 8 from this side, I have to make sure that that subtraction of 8 happens over here. And what will happen is, like in integers, you're going to see this 8, positive 8, is going to be canceled out by this negative 8. So those cancel, and that leaves us with n. N is all by itself, like I wanted it to be. And we did nothing over here, so we'll bring it all down. 17 minus 8. So n is the same as 17 minus 8, and we just have to do the math after that. 17 minus 8 is 9. Now let's plug that in and make sure that this works, because it's always a really good idea to check your algebra, to check the answer. Now that we know that n is the same as 9, that means I can take this 9 and plug it in here. So let's make that a 9. 8 plus 9 is the same as 17. So we know that that one works out well. I've got another question over here. Now this question's a little bit different than the previous one. Whereas before we were doing addition, now we're actually doing multiplication. But the concept doesn't change. What we need to do, read the question out loud. 9 groups of n is the same as 72. Well, 9 groups of is multiplication. And in order for me to cancel out multiplication, I have to do the opposite operation. Well, the opposite of multiply is divide. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to divide this by the number that is there. So 9n divided by 9. And what I do to one side, remembering that scale, I have to do to the other side. Now what I have here is this 9 times n divided by 9 is going to cancel out. So that'll disappear and that'll disappear. Which leaves me with n all by itself. N is the same as 72 divided by 9. Now I just have to do the math. N is equal to 8. And if we take this 8 and plug it back into the n, or the variable, or whatever variable it is. It could be anything. It could be A, B, C, whatever. It could be F. I'm just going to plug the variable back in. Now it has a value. So 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 8 is 72. I know that the answer works. Now this is one when kids look at this, they're like, oh no. It has a fraction. And fractions, we know, for a lot of kids, it is the bane of everyone's existence. But fear not, because the idea doesn't change. The concept doesn't change. I'll show you how to do it. If we read this question out loud, it says half groups of n is 30. Half groups of n. Well, groups of n means multiply. Even though this is a division, half is like a division. 1 divided by 2, 0.5. Even though this looks like division, we're still multiplying here. So how do we get rid of that? I'm going to write it a little differently this time. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go half times n divided by half equals 30 divided by half. What happens here is these halves will cancel because half times n divided by half is going to cancel out the halves, which leaves me with n by itself, and n is the same as 30 divided by half. Now immediately, if you're following this video and you're looking for the answer, you're going to think to yourself that this is going to be 15. Let's think about if that works. Half of 15 is 30. That doesn't make any sense. Half of 15 can't be 30 because half of 15 is 7.5. So if that doesn't work, it means that we should probably punch this into a calculator. When we are dividing by a fraction, the number gets bigger. That sounds a little bit weird, but mathematically it works. So let's figure that out. Half is the same, or n is the same as 30 divided by half. 60 would be our answer. We're cutting 60 in half to give us 30. Now let's plug that in to here. We've got a value of n, which is 60. So I'll just draw that little circle there. And if we read the question out loud, it sounds like it makes sense. Half of 60 is the same as 30. We've just checked all three answers. So this is how we do one-step algebra. I'll go through the steps with you. What you'll want to do is step 1, read the question out loud so you have an understanding of what operation you're going to be working with. In this case, 8 plus n, we know the operation is addition. 9 times n, we know the operation is multiplication. Same with this. Half times n is multiplication. That's step 1. Read the question out loud, determine the operation. Step 2, do the opposite of what that operation is using the same numbers. So in this case, 8 plus n, we go 8 minus 8 to get rid of the 8. 9 times n divided by 9 to get rid of the 9. And we have half times n divided by half to get rid of the half. That's step 2. Do the opposite operation, and that will isolate the variable. Step number 3 then, solve the math. Step number 4, check the answer. Make sure it works. And that's it. If you're able to do one-step algebra and get a good understanding of this, you will have no problem doing two-step algebra, which is a video for next time. Okay, like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe so you're not missing anything. If you have any comments, please leave them all down below so we can hear your beautiful thoughts. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.